We're constantly exposed to seeing ourselves and measuring ourselves by these numbers and all those things. And it really does get ingrained in you where you start to measure your own value, by all these numbers.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. One of the best ways that I have found to connect with my own teens around the topics of technology and other things that I'm wanting to take a deeper dive into is through the use of film and movies. Not unlike when my guys were young, I would use picture books to introduce topics. I often use movies and films to foster deeper connections and have deeper conversations on tricky topics. So if you're a parent of or someone who is currently struggling with the overuse of video games or technology, I have a fantastic new documentary for you to explore. Its name is Starting Over, and the writer and director is here today to discuss it. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Ryan Ha.
Thank you so much for having me. It's excited to talk today.
Great. Ryan, what brought you to want to make a documentary on this topic of digital overuse and recovery?
Yeah. So, what really brought me to this story and this project, it's really a two-part journey. It started originally, probably like most people, during COVID time, which was really when I started to uncover this problem of just using my phone too much, just using my screens too much, and just not connecting with the people around me. So, in all transparency, I'm 22 years old right now, just fresh out of college, studying filmmaking at NYU Tisch. And so basically during the COVID time, I was in high school. And so basically, during this time, I was, just figuring my life out. I'm a young 18-year-old man. So I'm just trying to figure out all these things. What am I going to do in my life? And during this time, I really started to notice that obviously I'm spending, lots of time on technology. I'm spending lots of time on my phone. And I really started to notice how, like, as a young guy, I just want to have some good time with my friends and my family. I really realized how I'm trying to connect with my friends, and just during these moments when I try to connect with my friends, I realize that, our phones and just the way we're constantly infiltrated with all these thoughts from social media about what we need to think, how we need to act like, it almost made, making friends during that time feel like a performance. So that really, I felt really moved by this problem. It felt like such a huge problem in my own life. Going forward from this time, it was honestly just looking at this one problem. This seemed like the biggest problem in my life at the time. Because also, I also felt like, I was able to grow up, pretty privileged where I have like, I never had to worry about food. I never had to worry about, money too much. I don't have to worry about these really big problems. And for me, I'm just looking around with like the people in my life, the loved ones in my life, and really just not being able to connect with these people and feeling like this barrier between us. It really felt like it was because of technology. So, from that point, that seemed like the biggest problem that was just around me. So then as I kind of went to college, I kind of wanted to figure out how I can, help this problem because this was the problem that I knew, that I experienced firsthand. And I felt like I had the knowledge for how to help people grow out of this problem. So actually, from there, it was a couple years later was when I had made this connection with Hillary Cash. And Hillary Cash is a psychologist who, actually co-founded Restart Life, which is the subject of this documentary. It's a technology addiction rehab center. So that was, it was really interesting and fascinating to make this connection with her at this time. So yeah, zoom forward to a couple years later, I met Hillary Cash, and she was actually going on this really interesting trip because she wanted to learn more about how this problem of technology and technology issues specifically to mental health issues was not just not because she knew all about how it affected people in America, affected the clients that she worked with because she's really been working in this field for a very long time. but she wanted to kind of learn more firsthand, just talk to people in other countries as well, in kind of more developing nations where the problem is, of course, their technology is a bit more new since they're, slowly starting to implement it into their, cultures and worlds as well. So we actually traveled to Kenya together during that time, and it was really all about just during that time, getting to know the people in Kenya and how they were dealing with this like new problem as well. And just understanding, like just trying to, kind of getting that, a little bit of a global perspective, just focusing on those individual people in those different areas. And it was really fascinating during that time. So I actually traveled with her during on that trip, helping document some of the journey as well with her, documenting some of the conversations we had with different people in Kenya during that time. So it was really fascinating. So after we took that trip, then, a couple years later, I thought about it and I was like, we had that amazing trip in Kenya, but, Hillary has her, her center in Washington State, here in the US. Why don't I tell that story there? Because, I have this connection with Hillary now, and I'm really fascinated by, now, understanding this problem a little bit more, getting a little bit more experience in it. So I really wanted to tell this story and learn more about how people are dealing with it, especially people who have reached a point in their life when they felt like, this, using technology becomes an addiction. So they feel like it has brought their life so bad that they need to get outside and professional help. So we really wanted to, go in and tell this story.
That's great. I had the opportunity to interview Hillary Cash several seasons back. I'll link that interview in the show notes. And Hillary, of course, she's got the greatest name, doesn't she, Ryan?
Yeah, Hillary Cash. Cash.
Oh no, I'm saying Hillary. Come on now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Hillary. I was just thinking money. I guess that's what I think about.
No, no, the best name is Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary.
But but yeah, I'll link that episode in our show notes. And she is was really a pioneer in recognizing the kind of overwhelming thing that was happening within our digital world of taking over people's lives through persuasive design of video games, and really was kind of one of those front runners too. She has the only residential addiction treatment center in North America at the time when I interviewed her. I don't know whether others had come up at this point. Ryan, circling back to one of those things that you talked about, you said you felt like life was a performance as you were growing up. And I think that that is something that is new. It's new to your generation, right? Of this kind of on this feeling of always being on. And it kind of gets to this concept of needing to establish sanctuaries within our home, right? As one of our 5 core healthy screen habits, we say, you have to establish times and places within your home without screens for that reason, also, because you just need to be away from the ongoing metrics of life of like how many counts do I have, how many followers, how many likes, what are my grades, I just feel like our teens today are under so much scrutiny by themselves of just looking at the constant numbers that are following them everywhere. So I would you agree with that as far as how it feels like growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was really one of the things that was so fascinating and so, it felt like such a, huge problem to me, personally. It was really like what I really, thought about a lot was how, I've realized there was like this shift in values that you would have because of using, social media too much, using technology too much. And if you just think about it, from like the obvious standpoint, if you just think about it, obviously, during the COVID time, lots of young people were using their devices, using social media. Their screen time could be like, maybe many people could be averaging 5 hours, and 5 hours could be moderate and low for some
For
kids.
sure. Average
Yeah.
age of screen time use for entertainment for teens today in the US is between 8 and 9 hours. So
Exactly.
that's beyond school use, right? We're
Yeah.
talking entertainment purposes.
Exactly. So you just think about that sheer fact, it's obviously going to affect how you think. And when you think about the type of thoughts and the type of things that you're constantly bombarded with, right? Imagine you're just walking through the supermarket and you just see all these advertisements in your face all the time. It's like it makes you think subconsciously about, what you're seeing. And in that same way, I've realized, as a young person during that time growing up, I realized, we're constantly exposed to seeing ourselves and measuring ourselves by these numbers and all those things. And it really does get ingrained in you where you start to measure your own value, by all these numbers. And not only that, it seems like, performing and maybe even like just hanging out with your friends just to be able to post something, that becomes the point of everything. So it reaches a point where all of a sudden, because social media is also something where we are the creators, we are the ones who are putting the content out there. All of a sudden, like every single hangout, every single, outing is just like it's the point is only to create content. So all of a sudden we are these unpaid creators for an audience of each other, and we're just constantly making stuff, trying to amuse each other with that content. So it was
Yeah.
really, really fascinating to just think about that.
Yeah. And you think about the rise of like the pop-up museums that basically it's just room after room after room of postable spaces where you can pose and take a picture, but it's not actually a museum in the sense of enriching your mind through art
Yeah.
or art history or sculpture or architecture. It's simply room after room after content creation. So I'm not passing judgment. I'm just pointing out it's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, yeah. So when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about your great new documentary, Starting Over.
Diving into the world of smartphones can be a wild ride for kids and parents alike. Whether your child is getting their first smartphone or has had one for a while, chances are they're still figuring out the do's and don'ts of using a smartphone wisely. Our book is here to help. Healthy Screen Habits for Tweens and Teens, a training workbook to help you use your phone wisely, is the tool your child needs to navigate life in the digital world. From tackling poor phone etiquette to addressing social media anxieties and online safety concerns, we have your child covered. Written especially for adolescents, we've put together all the information, tips, hacks, and rules to ensure that your child's phone is a useful tool that they control, not the other way around. We explain the whys behind the rules of phone use. We show your child the possible traps and dangers to watch out for, how to prevent them, and how to fix them if your child has made a mistake. We give your child the 5 core healthy screen habits to use daily, protecting them from some of the worst mistakes tweens and teens make while using their phones. This workbook will teach your child how to use their phone as a tool to help them do great things in their one amazing life, and it will make your life so much easier at the same time. Packed with colorful graphics and easy to read content, this resource is a game changer for kids. Don't miss out. Buy your copy of Healthy Screen Habits for Tweens and Teens on Amazon.com today.
I'm speaking with Ryan Huh, graduate of NYU Tisch School of the Arts, which I am very familiar with right now because I've been rewatching Gossip Girl with my teen. And it's where the school that Vanessa gets into. For those of you who remember, over Joel, it causes quite a bit of angst. So it's very reputable. Um, Ryan, can you tell us can you give us a basic breakdown of your documentary and tell us like what the premise is and who is in it?
Yeah, exactly. So, Starting Over is the name of the short documentary that we're talking about today and that we created. So, basically, Starting Over is a story which follows four men at Restart Life, this technology addiction rehab center. So, basically, it follows, them telling their own story, their own journey in their own words. It's these characters talking about their personal struggles. It's about four young men who are at four different stages of recovery. One of the young men is Theo, who is preparing to enroll inside the recovery program. Another is Rory, who is kind of just starting out in the program. Another is Matt, who is nearing the end of the treatment, and another is Charlie, who actually has been in recovery and been out of the program for a decade. It follows this journey how, we have these four different people who are at their four different stages of recovery. So we kind of follow that narrative to see, first of all, the connections between all four of these different stories, what led them all to be here, because there are very similar arcs of using technology too much and really feeling very poor about themselves, and then eventually, after following all four of these people, kind of figuring out what it takes for them to overcome this technology addiction that they've really developed.
Yeah. So, Ryan, who did you make this film for? Who was your primary audience?
Yeah, I would say I made this film particularly. I wanted to show this for, especially for young people to understand, about this experience. And yeah, first off, for young people, for them to see, people who have really, these people are really kind of at the extreme end where they need to get professional help. But, just having these people in our documentary, the four subjects, having them tell their stories and kind of just talking to them like man to man, just as a person, you kind of understand how their stories, it could really happen to anyone, and they're really no different from other people. It's just that they've kind of been exposed to the problem a little bit more. So I really wanted a lot of young people, specifically around my age, to be able to understand and see how we can really relate to how these people who are at Restart have fell really deep into the problem, and we could kind of see how we probably use technology in a very similar way as well, and we fall habit to those same problems.
I feel like young men are kind of having a moment in our digital wellness world with the series Adolescence, which
Hmm.
has a young 13-year-old boy and as the main character, and then yourself coming out with this, which focuses on the four men. So what, because you're a guy, I'm interested. What do you think gaming or online life is providing for young men? And I'm focusing on young men just because that's like the focus of your film. But what do you think it's providing that offline life does not? Like what is the pull?
With our four subjects, for three of them, really the main problem that they were dealing with was playing video games too much. And then another character of ours, Matt, another person in our story who we interviewed, Matt, his problem was really he was running a social media meme account actually. So he was very addicted to being able to create, content for an audience, and it really led to problematic behavior for him. So, when I really talked to these people and how I could was able to relate to them, it was really just about how, playing video games online, it starts like very innocent. It's like the same way how, boys, you just want to go play basketball with your friends, play at the park. And that's like video games could serve that same purpose at first, where you're just playing with your friends. But, a common through line that every single one of them had, and when we were talking together, was eventually, it becomes not about socializing anymore. And eventually it becomes just about that rush that you can get, from playing the games. And that was really fascinating to hear how they all kind of had that same experience. And it was really interesting to know that playing these video games and playing and using social media, things like that, it can give us the outlet that we need to feel successful, to feel accomplished, to go through a hard task and be rewarded for it for us. So it's really dangerous because we get that instant reward, which is so easy, and it's so easy to just get a hit of that and need one more and need one more and need one more. So it was really fascinating to hear
Yeah, so
how that
doing that
reward system.
doing that difficult task, but without having to engage any of our other senses, right? I mean, but there's a very big difference between I've watched a lot of hours of Zelda at my house.
Mhm.
And I mean, Link is amazing. Climbing cliffs and hopping on these horse things. I don't know what they are, but yeah, I mean, you can do that very quickly. You can learn those skills very quickly online without fostering muscles, heart rate, respiration rate that you would get engaging in offline life.
Absolutely. And it was really also another thing we talked about. It was just really also another way to just cope with, problems people have in your life.
Mm.
Like obviously a lot of these different people that we talk to and myself as well, obviously you're gonna have struggles in your life. You feel, you have times where you're failing school or you have times where you just don't know what to do with your life. Your job sucks. And then, when you're dealing with all these problems, which really feel terrible, you can, go online and you have that instant reward and you get lost in like that little dopamine hit. And that's what all these different people, we talked to kind of related to how they were using, their video games, how they were using, social media to just get that rush where they could kind of forget about some of the problems that they were really dealing with. And in that way, it kind of froze you in action.
I like that phrase. It froze you. Yeah. So, Ryan, where can people watch this? We're giving them all this good information, and I think it would foster a lot of very healthy conversation around, if you were to watch it with your teens, just even in talking about like, long-term goals of where would you like to be at this age, or where would you like to, do you have these feelings? What does I like rephrasing it, like what does the game provide you that online life does not? Like what does this do for you, but so that people can have these conversations, where can people watch it?
Absolutely. So people could watch the film on my personal website. And so my personal website is ryanhud.com. And so you could go to ryanhud.com /starting over. So the film will be available to watch there, and it's a private YouTube link that you'll be able to watch. So hopefully also, we have the private YouTube link that, the audience can watch. And we're also hoping to, hopefully get this film, seen at different film festivals as well to kind of continue to spread this conversation.
I'll link all of that in the show notes. So I have to ask, did working on this project change any of your online habits?
So for changing my online habits, I don't think, for me, it really wasn't specifically about like the online habits. I think it was more about, you know, I do admit, when I went into this project, I feel like I had a bit of a bias where I felt like, I'm just going into this project and obviously, I'm talking to people who are clients at Restart who have suffered, for technology addiction. So I sort of, just thought of these guys as, oh, they're just addicts type of thing, right? I kind of put this label on them. And it kind of made me feel a little bit superior, to them. I realized I had that bias where I felt like, oh, that could never happen to me. It's not my problem. It's these are the people who are dealing with the problem. And really, when I, started to talk to them, and, it was just as simple as just sitting down with people and just looking them in the eye and just saying, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And having that conversation with them. I really just like came to realize how the same way that first of all that they started to have this problem and fell deep into this problem where they became 100% addicted. I also realized how much hard work it is just to work on yourself and just try to get better. I also realized it's difficult, hard work to kind of claim your narrative that you're recovering. And I realized how powerful it is to like claim that narrative. So I think honestly, it was more about for me just learning that lesson, experiencing that lesson about how important your identity and your narrative is. And for a lot of people, using, social media specifically or video games, that can become your identity. And it can be so powerful because online you are told who you are based on all the numbers and things like that. And it's very easy to label ourselves in that identity. And I realized identity is so much more complex. Everyone is working hard to just improve themselves. So it's really just giving people that dignity and understanding people's story. And I think it's that it goes a long way.
Uh-huh. So do you find yourself posting as much as you used to, or like about your what about your online presence?
Yeah, so I think for my online presence, I do understand that you need to strike sort of a balance as well because people need to be able to, obviously share who they are online to be able to meet new people, but at that same time, you can't rely on that becoming your everything. So I think really what I took away from this project was trying to, prioritize who I am in real life first, which is really what, these people really come to Restart for. One of
Mm.
the things they talk about is they have like a just as simple as having a life plan, just to sort of map out what their life picture looks like, because that's something when they're just playing video games all day, they have absolutely no idea. So
Makes it
just
very,
as
yeah, brings in
exactly,
the
it's
focus.
so
Yeah.
narrow. So just as simple as being able to start with my own intentions, my own values first, then using technology to aid that, not using technology and then adding the values, starting with yourself first, then using technology to aid that.
Mm. So we have to take another short break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask Ryan Huff for his healthy screen habit. Tweens and teens may know how to operate most technology, but that doesn't mean they have the skills to use tech wisely. Healthy Screen Habits presentations give them the information they need to understand what's happening in their brains, how emotions play a role in their tech use, and ways to navigate the digital world safely. If you have a club, youth group, or even a group of local teens that you'd like to gather together for thoughtful conversation on the role they want tech to have in their life, how they can create a plan for success, and what apps to look out for, let's chat. In person or virtual options are available. Reach out to us at healthyscreenhabits.org, click the Book a Speaker button, and let's get the fun started. I'm speaking with Ryan Huh, director of Starting Over, a must see documentary on the journey of four young men as they work to recover from gaming addiction and screen overuse. Ryan, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask for a healthy screen habit. This is going to be a tip or takeaway that listeners can put into practice in their own home and in their own lives. So, what is yours?
So what I would specifically say is just this one line: use your technology and don't let your technology use you. So when I really talk about that, what that really comes across for myself, how I really think about that is you want to be able to have technology in place, have your social media in place as well, that aids you in like your own professional goals, your own personal goals, and not have your technology shape who you are and tell you what to do. So, there's some small ways that you could do it that I really love to do. It's just like, now there's been a lot of push to add lots of features, lots of screen time features on Apple, on iPhone, things like that. And these like features are kind of difficult to find. But if you just kind of dig through your settings, have some fun with that, you kind of can figure out how you can configure your phone to be able to aid you and your own goals. For myself, I know personally, I just try not, I'm working. I don't want to use my phone too much. I don't want to be distracted. So I like to, just as simple as setting up, your notifications so they don't constantly interrupt you. Because when you're constantly distracting and switching between tasks, that's like you're wasting so much time from doing that. So instead of having to check your phone notifications every 5 minutes, trying to batch that together, it can really be helpful. And it's just, understanding that, these are supposed to be tools, and letting them stay as tools and not having them tell us, well, when we should use our devices.
As always, you can find a complete transcript of this show, as well as a link to Ryan's website by visiting the show notes for this episode. I'll also include a link to that previous interview with Hillary Cash from Restart. Do this by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click the podcast button, and find this episode. Ryan, I find it so like rewarding and fascinating and fantastic that we are hearing more and more voices of Gen Z enter the chat of digital wellness, because truly, as you come forward, you guys have had the experience, the boots on the ground experience of growing up with technology and figuring out how to balance it all. And thank you so much for giving us this new tool to help foster better connections and better conversation within our own families.
Thank you so much for having me.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.